Yo, what is up guys? Welcome back to another YouTube video, and today we're going to move away from the top 10s and we're going to look at the Man United final title winning team. So basically Sir Alex Ferguson's last Manchester United team, and look at where they are now. Before we start, obviously guys, make sure you like, comment and subscribe, and yeah, let's get into the video. So at goalkeeper we have David De Gea. Obviously David De Gea is still at the club. He's now been at Manchester United for almost 10 years. But at this time, this was only his second year at the club, where he made 28 Premier League appearances, and after a shaky start, he was in the team of the season. Now obviously if you look at De Gea now, he's probably declined. He's probably not the goalkeeper that he was about 4 or 5 years ago, but still, you know, he's been at the club for almost 10 years. And I think he's been there long enough to be seen as a Man United legend, because obviously he hasn't won that many trophies because Manchester United have not been that good since Sir Alex Ferguson left. However, considering that Man United haven't been at the top level, he is a goalkeeper that has been at the top level for longer than most other players there, and he's been a good servant for the club. And of course the second goalkeeper was Lindegaard, who also made 10 Premier League appearances. But yeah, in this video we're mostly going to focus on the popular starting XL of that season, and we'll only look at some of the players that played a vital role from the bench. So now at right back we're going to go for Rafael, who in that year made 28 appearances with 3 goals and 4 assists. He then left for Lyon in 2015, and now this season he has joined Istanbul Başakşehir, where he actually played against Man United very recently and put in a very good performance. Now it can be argued that Rafael could probably still play at right back for Manchester United now, considering that Wan-Bissaka, as good as he is when he's defending, going forward you'd say Rafael is still probably the better defender. And although he was criticised for his lack of concentration when he was playing at Manchester United, he was still a fan favourite alongside his twin Fabio, and yeah, that was the main right back used that season by Manchester United in their final title winning season. Now moving on to his fullback partner, Patrice Evra, who was of course considered a Manchester United legend, made 34 appearances that year, scored 4 goals, made 6 assists. He then left in 2014, playing for Juventus. Then he moved on to Marseille, where his contract was terminated after he kicked a fan in the head, and then he made a brief spell at West Ham before retiring, and now he's a Sky pundit. And in my opinion, he's one of the better Sky pundits because he talks with passion, and he's not like a lot of these other pundits who kind of sit on the fence and don't want to seem too controversial. But anyway, moving on to the centre-backs. So the first centre-back was the legendary Rio Ferdinand, who made the team of the season that year, making 28 appearances for Man United that season. But he left in 2014 for QPR, which would go on to be his final season, where he got relegated. He then retired, tried to become a boxer. That failed, he didn't get his license, and now he's a BT Sport pundit. And whilst I do like the passion that Rio Ferdinand shows, I still think he can be a bit biased when it comes to talking about players that used to be his teammates, such as the current Manchester United manager, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But anyway, moving on to the other centre-back, his centre-back partner, which that season was Jonny Evans. Even though Vidic made quite a lot of appearances that season, he spent a considerable amount of time injured, and Jonny Evans made 23 appearances that year, and then he left for West Brom in 2015, and now he has been playing for Leicester since 2018, playing all games in the league last season. And you could argue that if Jonny Evans came to Manchester United now, he would be their best defender, because I think he's better than Maguire, he's certainly better than Lindelof and Eric Bailly. And yeah, I think Man United's one of their biggest mistakes was to get rid of Jonny Evans, who I think Louis van Gaal got rid of. But you could argue that he could still walk into that Manchester United team. And yeah, he was the centre-back that partnered with Rio Ferdinand in the 2012 and 13 season. Now the first central midfielder we're going to talk about is Michael Carrick, who also made the team of the season, playing the most games out of everyone else with 36 league appearances. He then retired in 2018 after spending a large portion of his career at Manchester United, and now he is a first-team coach under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And I think it's hard to assess how well he's done as a first-team coach because Man United have not been brilliant. However, they've had good moments, but it's unclear whether that was due to Carrick or whether it was due to the other coaches. Nonetheless, he was an excellent player in his day, very underrated to say the least. And 2012 and 13 was probably one of the best seasons he had in his career. Now moving on to his partner, Tom Cleverley, who is an unlikely Premier League winner, to be honest. He made 22 appearances that season, and he was never really highly rated among Manchester United fans. But under Sir Alex Ferguson, he was a steady player who did as he was told. But unfortunately, his career has gone downhill since then. He struggled with injuries and form. He moved to Everton in 2015, and then after 2 years, he moved to Watford, where he had a decent start to life. But yeah, now he's playing in the Championship for them. And yeah, it's kind of disappointing to see how his career went from winning the Premier League titles with Manchester United to now playing in the Championship. It will be interesting to see whether he will play in the Premier League again or whether he will just continue playing in the Championship and eventually retire. Now at right wing, we've got Antonio Valencia, who made 30 league appearances that season with 8 goal involvements. He would then later go on to captain Manchester United and even switch to a right back, where he wasn't great, but he was reliable. He wasn't a natural right back, so he was never going to be amazing. However, he did his job of what was asked of him, and then last season he went back to Ecuador, playing a year there, and currently he's a free agent. And it will be interesting to see where he plays next. Will he play in the Premier League again? Will he go somewhere else in Europe, or will he retire? Now in the left wing position, it was Ashley Young and Kagawa, who both made 20 appearances each in the league. So first we're going to talk about Ashley Young, who made 19 appearances that season, but then would also go on, like Antonio Valencia, to switch into fullback, playing left back and right back, and he also captained Manchester United. He's a player who was never truly accepted by Manchester United fans, but nevertheless, he always done the job that was asked of him, and he had kind of a late resurgence in his career to the point that he even went to the 2018 World Cup as a left wing back for England, and now he's playing his football at Inter Milan at the age of 35. He had a really strong start to his life at Inter Milan, but he's been benched for the last couple games. Again, it's interesting to see, will he continue to play at Inter Milan next year, or will he come back to Watford, where he said a few times now that he wants to come back. But nevertheless, he's had a really good career at the end, and that all started at Watford, so let's see if he goes back to Watford. Now, the second player who played in this position frequently was Kagawa. This was his first season at Manchester United, where he made 20 Premier League appearances and even got a hat-trick against Norwich. However, ultimately, it didn't work out for him because the number 10 position at Manchester United hasn't never quite really worked out. He then went back to Dortmund 2 years later, where he never really was able to find the form that he had before he left for Manchester United. Subsequently, he went to Besiktas on loan, and then most recently he played for Real Zaragoza in the Spain second division, and now he's a free agent. So it's quite sad to see that a player who was just 6 or 7 years ago playing for Manchester United to have most recently played in the second division of Spain and is now a free agent. But at the age of 31, he's still got a couple years left in him. So let's see if a club picks him up or not. Now let's move on to the strikers, and first we're going to talk about Wayne Rooney. In Sir Alex Ferguson's last season, he mainly played a supporting role to the player we're going to mention later on. However, Rooney had a decent season. He made 27 league appearances, got 12 goals and 10 assists. This would end up being one of his last good seasons at Manchester United, and after years of declining, he returned to Everton for the 2017-18 season, and he had a decent enough season, scoring 10 goals. However, he left just after one season and then went on to play for DC United, where he had good moments. and I think he helped them get to the playoffs. But now he's at Derby as a player coach. He's now 35 years old, but it's kind of sad to see how his ex-teammate Ronaldo, who he came up with at Manchester United, is still one of the best players in the world. And Rooney's now playing in the second division of England as a player coach. But nonetheless, he had a fantastic career, and he's a Manchester United legend, and he's their all-time goal scorer. And let's see if he goes on to manage Manchester United in the future. Now, the main man that season was, of course, summer signing Robin van Persie, who played in all 38 league games and was in the team of the season. He was top scorer that year with 26 goals and even got 9 assists. However, that would only really be his truly world-class season for Manchester United. And he was eventually shipped out to Fenerbahce by Louis van Gaal, where despite his age and lack of pace, he still continued to score goals. And then he went to back to his boyhood club Feyenoord in 2017, and then eventually retired in 2019. Nowadays, you can also see him on BT Sport as a pundit with Rio Ferdinand. Now, there are some honourable mentions. First of all, Paul Scholes, who made 16 league appearances that season, and this was after he came out of retirement the season before. So he would go on to play this whole season, and then he would retire for the final time when Sir Alex Ferguson left. And he was also now a BT Sport pundit after having a short stint as a manager at Oldham. We're also going to talk about Danny Welbeck, who made 27 appearances that year, mainly as a sub. He then left for Arsenal in 2014, spent most of his time injured and as a substitute option, but he won the FA Cup. And then he joined Watford last year, and he was relegated, and now he's at Brighton. Unfortunately for Welbeck, he's a player that came with a lot of promise, but due to his injuries, he's never really fully lived up to his expectations. But I think he's done better than a lot of other players on this list. He's still a Premier League player, and it's interesting to see whether he can play any sort of role in Brighton's season this year. I would also like to mention Javier Hernandez, who was a super sub that year, making 22 appearances, mostly off the bench, scoring 10 league goals. He would then go on to have a loan season at Real Madrid, and then he went to Leverkusen, West Ham, Sevilla, and now he's playing in the MLS for LA Galaxy. At 32 years of age, he's clearly not in his prime, and is probably playing his last couple of years of football professionally. But yeah, I would also like to mention Nemanja Vidic, who was of course the club captain of Manchester United. He made 19 appearances in that final Sir Alex season, but then he left for Inter Milan in 2014. However, after struggling with loads of injuries, he retired after that year. And yeah, so it's quite interesting to see Man United's last title-winning team and comparing it to their current team. Only David De Gea still remains as a first-team player at the club. And if you look at the current Manchester United team, you could argue that it's almost the same level as Manchester United's final league winning team. I mean, if you look at the midfield of Manchester United now, you could argue that it's better than what it was back then. But clearly, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not the coach or the manager that Sir Alex Ferguson was, and he probably never will. But anyway, that's besides the point. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This was a bit different to the usual top 10s, and I'll do more of these if you guys want me to. As always, just let me know in the comments below what you thought of the video. Like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.